Merv Griffin created Jeopardy! And Wheel of Fortune. He built a billion-dollar empire. He hosted presidents, married Hollywood royalty, and smiled on camera for 6 decades. But the day after he died in August 2007, The Hollywood Reporter published something his family never wanted the world to see. "I'm going to kill it. I'm really going to kill it." Within hours, the article was pulled. Then it came back. Then it was edited. For 15 years, the people closest to him fought to keep one truth buried. 2 lawsuits in the early 90s had already hinted at it. A $200 million palimony case almost blew everything open, but Merv's machine kept it quiet. Now, with the recent release of the 2025 documentary Merv: The Untold Empire, and the ongoing legal battles surrounding the estate, the full story is finally emerging. Mervyn Edward Griffin Jr. was born on July 6, 1925, in San Mateo, California, into a middle-class Irish-American Catholic family. His father worked as a stockbroker, his mother a homemaker. From the outside, it looked steady and ordinary. Yet inside that modest home was a boy already leaning toward the stage. Years later, that same boy would build a media empire worth more than $1 billion. That future started early. At just 4 years old, Griffin began taking piano lessons from his aunt. While other boys were pulled toward baseball, Griffin cared more about Bach and the feel of the keys under his fingers. By the time he was a teenager at San Mateo High School, graduating in 1942, he was already playing at parties and dances. And as he played, he learned something important. Popular songs did not just entertain people. They paid. That lesson only became clearer when he was 14. He was not simply singing in church. He was being paid to play the organ. It looked like a small teenage job, but for Griffin, it meant more. He had to be dependable, rehearse, show up on time, and perform properly while keeping up with school. He was learning how show business worked before he was old enough to enter it. Soon, those church jobs expanded into weddings, funerals, and local parties. By his late teens, he was earning more through music than most boys his age could hope to make. Even then, there was another side to him that mattered just as much. Griffin did not only enjoy performing. He loved putting the whole show together. As a child, he would organize neighborhood productions, assign roles, shape routines, and step in as master of ceremonies. He was not waiting to be discovered. He was building the event from scratch. That instinct stayed with him. He wanted control of the format, the structure, the full experience. Even as a boy, he thought more like a producer than a performer. Still, that path was not the path his father wanted. Griffin's father believed in safety and respectable work. So when Griffin was 19, he followed that pressure and took a job as a bank teller in San Mateo. It should have been the sensible move. But on his very first day, he learned something that hit him hard. A man working at the same desk had been there for around 30 years and was still earning the same small fixed salary. Griffin looked at that future and felt the air leave the room. He did not see security. He saw a trap. Before that first day even ended, he quit. It shocked his father. But for Griffin, the decision felt final. He would take risk over certainty. That instinct for turning ordinary moments into future gold showed up in another part of his childhood. During long family drives, Griffin and his older sister Barbara would pass the time by playing hangman. Guess the letters, reveal the hidden phrase. Decades later, while looking for a fresh game show idea, he reached back to those road trips and realized that hangman had the bones of a television format. Then he added the wheel, giving the game movement, suspense, and a visual hook. That old car game became Wheel of Fortune, which premiered on NBC on January 6, 1975, and became one of the most profitable television franchises ever created. By the mid-1940s, Griffin was moving deeper into show business. Around 1945, he began singing on San Francisco Sketchbook, a nationally syndicated radio show. Radio gave him reach. Listeners heard his rich voice and imagined a slim, polished young crooner. The trouble was that the real Griffin did not match the image. He was much heavier than his voice suggested. One story from that period stayed with him. A fan came to see him at the station, expecting one thing and finding another, and reportedly laughed in shock. The moment cut deeply. It was a brutal lesson. Talent mattered, but image mattered too. So Griffin turned the pain into action. He went on an extreme crash diet and lost around 80 pounds in just 4 months. He transformed himself from a pudgy teenager into someone ready for cameras. What mattered even more was what the weight loss revealed about him. Griffin was not passive. When something blocked his path, he attacked it. He wanted control over his story. Soon, the next opening arrived. Bandleader Freddie Martin heard Griffin's vocals and brought him into the Freddie Martin Orchestra as featured vocalist in 1949. That changed Griffin's scale overnight. He was touring the country, performing night after night in dance halls and ballrooms. The road sharpened him. He learned timing, crowd reading, and how to hold a room. Those skills would later slide perfectly into television. Then came the hit that pushed him into households across America. In 1950, his recording of "I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts" became a top 10 smash and sold more than 3 million copies. For a moment, the San Mateo boy was suddenly a real pop success. That attention brought him somewhere new. While performing in nightclubs, Doris Day saw his act and arranged a screen test for him at Warner Brothers. The test opened the door to small film appearances and proved he could move from radio into Hollywood. In 1953, Griffin found himself in controversy when he appeared in So, This Is Love, and shared a passionate, open-mouthed kiss with Katherine Grayson. At that time, the Hays Code expected screen romance to stay brief and close-lipped. The kiss drew attention because it felt too bold for the era. For a moment, Griffin became a minor scandal figure. Even in a supporting role, he had stumbled into a moment that made people talk. One of the biggest collisions came in 1958. Griffin was hosting the live morning show Play Your Hunch when Tonight Show host Jack Paar wandered onto Griffin's set by mistake. Instead of letting him slip away, Griffin grabbed the moment and turned the accident into an improvised interview. The exchange played so well that it impressed NBC executives. Paar later invited him to guest host on Tonight, and that helped lead to Griffin's own NBC daytime talk show, which debuted on October 1, 1962. One wrong turn in a hallway became a launchpad. By then, Griffin was becoming a television personality with real range. That tension showed up sharply during his CBS late-night years. In April 1970, activist Abby Hoffman appeared on The Merv Griffin Show wearing his famous American flag shirt as a protest against the Vietnam War. CBS censors blurred Hoffman's upper body, claiming concern over the flag image. Yet only minutes later, Pat Boone appeared in a commercial wearing a similar flag shirt without being censored. Griffin saw the hypocrisy clearly. He was furious. The incident became part of a larger clash with CBS over political discomfort. By February 1972, CBS had canceled his show. Griffin soon returned in syndication. The episode showed that Griffin was not only a smiling host, he was willing to push back. That same syndicated era became a place where Griffin helped launch other people. On October 29, 1974, a 27-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger appeared on The Merv Griffin Show, still largely unknown to American audiences. Interviewed poolside at the Beverly Hilton, Arnold flexed, talked about his immigrant dreams, and explained he was making $25,000 a year laying bricks. His English was rough, but viewers found him charming. Griffin gave him a spotlight at exactly the right moment. Schwarzenegger later said the appearance helped launch his Hollywood path. After Griffin died in 2007, Governor Schwarzenegger delivered the eulogy and called him a big part of his success. In the mid-1970s, Clint Eastwood introduced Griffin to transcendental meditation. Griffin embraced the practice so fully that he devoted full episodes of his show to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, including a major special on May 4, 1975. He continued practicing twice a day for around 30 years, and credited meditation with helping him stay calm through the pressure of television. Across those years, The Merv Griffin Show grew into a giant force, winning 11 daytime Emmys between 1974 and 1985. By the time its run ended, the show had featured more than 25,000 guests over 24 years. Whitney Houston made her television debut there in 1983. What Griffin had built was no longer just a successful show. It was a platform that reflected American culture in real time. And then came the idea that changed television forever. In 1963, while flying back to New York, Griffin was sketching game show ideas. Someone made the comment that Unlocked Everything quiz shows had been damaged by cheating scandals. So why not reverse the setup? Why not give people the answers and make them come up with the questions? Griffin immediately saw it. Before the flight ended, the rough shape of Jeopardy already existed. When the show premiered, it did so under the name that would become television history. Yet even a hit like Jeopardy was not safe forever. NBC canceled it on January 3, 1975, wanting younger viewers. On September 10, 1984, Jeopardy returned in syndication with Alex Trebek as host. By the time Trebek died in 2020, he had hosted more than 8,000 episodes. All of that success led to one of the biggest business moves of his life. On May 6, 1986, at age 60, Griffin sold Merv Griffin Enterprises to Columbia Pictures Television for $250 million in cash. At the time, it was the largest sale of an entertainment company owned by a single person. Forbes called him the richest performer in Hollywood. In November 1987, Griffin bought the Beverly Hilton, the famous 592-room hotel. It was not just a hotel, it was a symbol. Just a year earlier, he had sold his production company for $250 million. Now, he was turning television fortune into real estate and power. He even moved into a 3-bedroom suite on the top floor. Award shows happened there. The Golden Globes happened there. Then he went even bigger. In 1988, Griffin faced Donald Trump in a fight over Resorts International. Griffin agreed to buy it for $365 million and take on another $925 million in debt. At first, the deal made him look fearless. He had beaten Trump, but the triumph did not last. In less than 10 months, Resorts reported a loss of $46.6 million. On December 23, 1989, he placed Resorts International into bankruptcy. In less than a year, his win over Trump had turned into a financial disaster. Still, Griffin did not walk away. By 1998, Griffin Gaming was sold for about $350 million. A move that once looked like pure ruin became a partial recovery. One of the strangest turns in Griffin's life involved Nancy Reagan. Years before the presidency, he had introduced Nancy to astrologer Joan Quigley after Quigley appeared on his show. Then, after the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan on March 30, 1981, Nancy turned back to Griffin. He vouched for Quigley. From there, Quigley began advising on the timing of Reagan's schedule, reportedly paid $3,000 a month. Her guidance affected major scheduling decisions, including timing around the 1985 Geneva summit with Mikhail Gorbachev. Griffin later defended it, arguing it helped keep Reagan safe. The idea that a talk show legend had helped connect the First Lady to an astrologer who influenced presidential scheduling was almost too strange to believe. Yet it was real. And yet, beneath all the glamour, there was another story building for years. One that finally exploded in the early 1990s. In April 1991, Danny Terrio, the host of Dance Fever, filed an $11.3 million sexual harassment lawsuit against Griffin. Terrio claimed the misconduct stretched back years, involving unwanted touching and coercive behavior. The case was later dismissed, but the accusations burst into public view in 1992 when Terrio spoke about them on Geraldo Rivera's show. For many viewers, it was the first time they had heard such allegations attached to a major television mogul. Then another lawsuit hit. In March 1991, Brent Plott, Griffin's former bodyguard and horse trainer, filed a $200 million palimony lawsuit in Florida. Plott claimed the two had been lovers for years, and that Griffin had promised him lifetime financial security. He said he had lived with Griffin and shared a bed. Since same-sex marriage had no legal recognition then, the suit framed the matter as a broken contract. The number alone turned it into international tabloid material. Griffin fought back hard, dismissing both suits as extortion. The courts did not deliver criminal charges, and the lawsuits were dismissed. But the damage was done in another way. The private part of Griffin's life was now being dragged into public view. This brings us to the secret his family hid for 15 years. On August 16, 2007, just before his funeral, The Hollywood Reporter ran a front-page web article declaring that Merv Griffin was gay. The story described Griffin as a closeted man who had spent his life hiding a central truth while building a huge empire. Within hours, the article was pulled, likely because of legal pressure and fear of backlash. But the removal only made the story bigger. People noticed. Writers pushed back. Soon the article returned, though softened in parts. Even in death, Griffin's private life was still wrapped in caution and control. For 15 years, his family and estate fought to keep that truth buried, editing obituaries, deflecting questions, and quietly shaping the narrative. In 2025, the documentary Merv: The Untold Empire premiered, bringing the story back into the spotlight. Featuring never-before-seen interviews and archival footage, the film directly addressed the lawsuits, the Hollywood Reporter article, and the long silence. Critics noted that the documentary treated Griffin's sexuality with respect, while refusing to look away from the complexity of a man who built a family-friendly empire while living in secrecy. The documentary's release has reignited conversations about how Hollywood's golden age forced powerful men to hide their true selves. Merv Griffin died on August 12, 2007, at the age of 82 from prostate cancer. 5 days later, his funeral was held at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills. About 500 mourners attended. Nancy Reagan was there. So were Alex Trebek, Vanna White, Pat Sajak, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who delivered the eulogy. After the service, guests were taken to a reception at the Beverly Hilton. It was a fitting final circle. The place he had made part of his identity now helped host his farewell. But the secret his family tried so hard to protect for 15 years could no longer be contained. The truth, as it always does, changed everything.